Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this chapter of Far From Home, our Savage World science fiction game. Thanks for joining us, and I hope everybody has a good time. I am your host and storyteller, Eric Taylor, and we're going to introduce our cast really quick after our quick business. Monday night, we'll be back with more Paddington Prowler, and then Wednesday, we will be back with Eternium Gate, which will have some interesting developments, given recent choices. And then Saturday will be our double up as usual. So stay tuned for all of that. And with that out of the way, we're going to introduce our cast. We'll start with Shawnee B.
Howdy doody.
I do.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
Good.
Oh.
Good.
I'm confused.
Why are you confused? Oh, there's no us. Why is there no us? Who knows?
Are we playing hide and seek now?
No, I bumped a button.
Ooh, we're back.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I bumped a button, but that's okay. I fixed it. Coral probably bumps a lot of buttons. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. And yes, Coral is a little bit clumsy. Hasn't come up yet, but she is.
And Katie, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm glad. And we are short Jeff this evening. He is ill, so no Jeff. Who wants to tell us what happened last time on Far From Home? No one. Well, I
Trying
guess,
to organize thoughts. So many things happened.
I guess the Hegira just
Yeah.
blew up.
Why don't we do it as a group?
Okay. But there'll be no bennies that way.
Waffles were made.
What was made?
Waffles. Waffles were
We-
made.
We had waffles. Oh, yeah. We did a lot of nothing at one point. And so Laurie... Oh, we broke into a computer lab.
We didn't break in. Coral works there. She let you in. She probably shouldn't have.
Essentially, Laurie broke into a computer lab using Coral. There was some hacking done. And we met a load of AIs. Cousin Roberto is a problem, an ongoing problem, as is Laurie for inadvertently helping him.
I mean, it was definitely advertent. You could have adverted it.
I could have, but hey, there's the argument that, like, maybe things have been forestalled because I did do the thing. Because he knows I'm on the ship, so maybe he's slowing down the process that's happening.
But it's because of him that there's a dead body on Nyla's couch, so probably not.
That's true. I want to know why all of the emergency services are currently busy if we have the stowaway. That's another thing that happened.
You have a stowaway. Do you have the stowaway or a stowaway?
Oh man, I don't know. How many are there?
Oh, that question is upsetting.
If there's something I've learned in an Eric game, always look for more.
Stars the Bind is not a bitter, haunting memory for Sarah at all.
But, like, it's fair of Paddington too. If you think you have one father, look for more. There might be more.
Many of them, in fact, only have one father. The exception to that rule is Constance.
And Amelia, who has two.
Yeah.
We should make this a new show. Listen to what happens in hype chat. We just get the players together and you get to listen to all our wild speculations.
You get to hear hype chat in all its glory.
We find it interesting anyway.
It's terrifying sometimes.
I have it permanently muted. Okay.
Two went to work, two didn't. There was an additional audio, but that was with headphones off. I don't know what happened with their headphones off. No, our headphones off.
Yep. And there were Nopelings.
All of the Nopelings. Not all of them?
I hope all of them, but not on the ship, please. Nope.
Yep. So the two engineering types went to work. They did some engineering. Charlie was outside with his buddy. And his buddy came in contact with a strange substance that seemed to act almost like a portal. Part of him was one place, he could see things, part of him was not. Then when he came back, there were all of these like creatures all over his body that were like small gemstone diode kind of things. And they appeared to have like punctured into his suit. And we are starting from there. Coral, you happen to be passing by the airlock space and hear screaming and a lot of, shouting of get that under control, what's going on in there, turn on the suppression system, like all of this stuff. You recognize two of the voices. One is belonging to Charlie and one is belonging to your brother.
She was about to run away until she heard Flint's voice. And now she will slowly creep towards Flint.
Okay. As you come into the room, you see that there is the big glass like quarantine panel. And you see that room is filled with kind of a slightly green tinted fog, which you know to be a decontamination fog. And it's filling up the room. And then out of that fog, you hear everybody shouting. You haven't quite gotten to anybody to get their attention to know what's going on. And then you see a hand slam onto that glass in, in one of the spacesuit gloves. Just bam, run into that glass. And then immediately thereafter, there's the smash of a helmet. And the eyes beneath are just glowing the plot-appropriate color that I said they were glowing last session that I don't remember.
Pink.
Was it pink? I don't think it was pink.
The Nopelings?
White. Yeah,
It
they
was
were
white.
like white or blue, but I think the
They
eyes
were
were
white,
white.
Yeah. So
Oh,
just
that's
this white glow just suffusing through the smoke and just that cracked helmet there against the glass. And you see that hand come back and slam down as a fist over and over against that glass. And people are shouting. And at that point you hear Flint. Coral, what are you doing here? You don't belong in here.
I heard your voice, and it sounds dangerous in here. It looks dangerous in here.
It is very dangerous in here. That's why you don't belong in here.
Right. I heard Charlie too.
And you see Charlie's over there, like, frantically working at a panel. And then you hear one of the other men. Lieutenant, you might want to look at this. And Flint like kind of brushes past you, and he moves over, and you can see through the fog all of these bluish colored lights starting to appear kind of through the fog space. Sir, I don't know what's going on, but they seem to be tapping into the computer system. And the lights just kind of grow in intensity. And then you hear Flint, Charlie, get away from there. And he goes running, and he bowls into Charlie as the panel that he's working at explodes. And both Charlie and Flint go down hard in heaps against the wall away, both of them looking to be pretty severely burned by the exploding panel.
Coral's gonna run over to both of them and...
Okay. They're alive, but you can see that their breathing is pretty ragged, and they're both burned pretty good. And they've both suffered some, like, concussive force.
Somebody help. We need to get them to sickbay quick.
And then you hear this crack, and as you turn, you just see this kind of splinter appear in the quarantine glass beneath where that fist is pounding.
Oh, that's gonna break. What are you guys gonna do?
Get security down here. Security is super busy with the intruder and the standoff in by the reactor core.
Oh, maybe we need to leave this room. Grab Charlie and Flint and let's all leave and seal the door.
Okay. Yep. So a bunch of you start to gather up the two injured guys. There's a couple of other people who were injured in the panel explosions. And as you start to work your way through, the big blast door starts to go down, like the big airlock, the secondary airlock, because you're already inside the quarantine zone, inside the first airlock. The secondary airlock starts to go down. And as it's going down, you see this pair of hands reach out and grab onto one of the men who's there working, and just like pull his legs, and he goes down with a crash, and it just yanks him back in as the door closes.
What is that?
We don't know.
But those were hands that reached, like, it's human, a person?
Charlie's partner was out there with him, and he interacted with some kind of substance. We don't know what happened, but when he came back in, he was just covered in... The easiest way to describe him is like mechanical barnacles.
What now?
They looked a lot like barnacles, but they had like glowing gem cores. Here, I can show you. And he walks over and he pulls up, like, on a different console, some footage. And you see just the couple of playback minutes of them coming in, and Charlie's partner turning around, and just all the things all through his suit. The one at, like, the base of his helmet, he pulls up, like, the x-ray scan, and you can see, like, the protuberances that have been injected into the various points.
Oh, this is this something from like horror movie? I don't like horror movies. Oh, this is what? And that was his partner?
Yeah.
Why is he still in there? When the glass started breaking, why didn't someone space him or something?
Because we don't know what's going on.
So you thought it'd be better to leave him here on the ship?
I'm not in charge. Your brother was.
We should get him to sickbay.
Yeah, at this point, they've moved Flynn and Charlie off to sickbay. And they walk over, and you see someone's, like, thumbing through a panel. And they pick up a phone and call somewhere. And there's a brief conversation. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure, I'll call him. And back in Shady Oaks, Nyla, your phone rings.
Hello, this is Nyla.
Sorry, miss. This is Corporal McDaniels down in engineering. I just got a phone with the Commodore. We're in need of a biologist up here.
Oh, yeah, I can be right up.
Yeah, he said to bring your muscle. I don't know what that means. He said you'd know.
Yes, I will bring her along.
Right. I assumed he meant you were going to work hard, but sure. You do whatever it is you think he means. And he hangs up.
Lori, we have to go.
Where?
It's a good question. Where did he say they needed to go?
He gave you the engineering bay coordinates.
That's I'm having a moment. Nyla's not, but I am. Sorry. Let's go.
Okay, sure.
As they're walking, she tells Lori, they say they're in need of a biologist. What in the world could they need me for over at the engineering bay?
I have no idea. Why did they ask for me?
I mean, they said bring my muscle. That's not.
Nope, not incorrect.
Nope.
Not incorrect. Just amusing. Okay.
We can look for Coral and Charlie on the way.
Yeah, at this point,
Yeah.
your cell phone rings, Nyla. Like your little communicator. It's not necessarily a phone, but your communicator rings, and it is a panic-stricken Coral.
Nyla, Flint and Charlie, they got hurt. A panel exploded. There's mechanical barnacles, and they've taken over this guy, and he busted through like, oh. Nyla, I need help.
Okay, where? I'm taking all of this in. Where are you?
In the engineering bay. I wasn't supposed to be here, but I was walking past and I heard Flynn Charlie's voice, and I went in and things got bad.
Oh, well, that's very convenient. I've been asked to head right there. So Lori and I will be there in a moment.
Okay. I'll try to sit tight, but I think maybe I should run away. I'll stay put until you get here.
Yeah, definitely stay there. Do you have that data stick with you?
You mean the clear one?
Yes, the clear one. Why are we whispering?
I think I'm gonna get in big trouble, 'cause it's all my fault. They're probably gonna space me. It's okay, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, just stay there. Don't move. We will be there so quick.
Okay.
Okay. You guys begin to make your way up toward the engineering bay. As you arrive at a checkpoint, you notice that the checkpoints are usually not guarded by armed people, but there are armed people standing there. Just two of them. And they're not like heavily armored and armed, just like they are carrying weapons, which is unusual, beyond the usual like stun guns. And they look at you. Identification, please.
Nyla holds up her identification badge.
Yep, and they pull out this device, and it looks kind of like a tuning fork, but there's like a holographic display that appears in between the two tines of the tuning fork, and they pass it over, and as they go over yours, the two tips light up green, and then it pulls up some information, and they press a little button on the thumb, on the grip, and scroll through. All right, you're supposed to be going to deck 18, compartment 34. So, and they look at you. ID, please.
I'm the muscle.
Sorry, what? Where's your ID?
I don't have any yet.
Hang on a minute, please. And they like step over, and a few minutes pass, and they come back, and they've got a really confused look on their face, but they're carrying with them an ID badge, but they're also carrying a belt. And they hand you the badge, and they say, they give you the keep this with you at all times kind of speech. They don't make the "we'll space you" joke that everybody else got. Now seems like an inappropriate time. But then they hold out the belt, and they look at you. Apparently you're an acting ensign now, and this is for you. And the belt has like cord restraint dispenser, so it works kind of like silly string would work, but it dispenses like essentially really thick zip ties that you can use to like restrain somebody. And then it has a official communicator and a stun gun on the belt. And they nod to you, and they say, your first assignment is to escort Nyla here to the engineering compartment.
It's that dangerous?
From what we've been told, we have about 8 injured and 2 dead.
What on earth happened up there?
I don't know.
Any chance I can have something that's, sharper?
I'm sure somebody's got like a screwdriver up there.
Sure, I'm sure that will do.
And he kind of shrugs, and he's like, I gave you what I was ordered to give you.
Firearm would be good, but it's okay.
And he again shrugs.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you what I was ordered to give you.
I know. Onward bound.
Okay.
Laurie's going to walk slightly ahead of Nyla.
As you're walking, your communicator, like Nyla's communicator, the civilian one, is essentially like an iPhone. Like it's just a tablet kind of sort of thing. Although it does fold, and it is, it does fold down to be, early 2000s cell phone size rather than modern cell phone size. But your communicator is very similar, although enameled differently. It doesn't quite fold down as small, and it folds out to be larger, but it comes with an earpiece. As you put your earpiece in, you start to hear chatter across a number of channels, and you realize that you're picking up like like military band communications. And as you're headed up, give me a smarts roll. It's super busy, and so let's see how well you can just sort through the information overload that you're being given.
It's a 5.
Okay. You do have a hard time with some of it, and you do eventually have to go through on your phone and like filter some of the channels out that are they're not really discussing so much news, and you kind of get the impression that you were handed a phone that's connected to everything you could have access to, but you need to kind of select where you want to be and filter things through as you go. And your instructions just weren't super specific, but you do manage to get some of the more busy work kind of stuff filtered out. And what you come to understand is that there is what is being called an extraterrestrial disturbance in the engineering bay near propulsion, which propulsion is where Charlie works. You know that there was some sort of explosion that injured a number of crew members, including Charlie and Flint, which would explain why Nyla is so freaked out. You also become aware that Coral. And you become aware that there is a cell of Earth First stowaways who have barricaded themselves near the reactor core and have taken multiple hostages. You also get word that what is being referred to as the Chimera is moving through the system slower than previously.
And I would know that that's to do with tech.
You're able to kind of piece together that you think it's some kind of tech-related thing. And sorry, I gave you the wrong code name. It's not the Chimera. It's the Caledonian is what's moving through the system.
Okay. I know why they need a biologist.
Why?
They found extraterrestrial life of some kind.
They said that?
That's what they're saying. So, no, nope. No. I can see you looking excited.
I'm not. This is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Nyla?
Nyla's walking just a little bit faster.
I am going to need you to stay behind me as much as possible, just in case.
What else is there anything else going on?
Yeah. There's a whole cell of Earth First stowaways, not just one. One got to us.
Oh, no. Where are they?
By the reactor. So that's why emergency service is not available right now. That's why I'm here instead of anyone else.
I prefer that.
Me too. Would have been hard if they'd said that you needed to go without me.
And as you're walking up the hall saying this, you hear a voice. Yeah, but I kind of wish they hadn't had to bring me. And as you glance down the hallway, Corporal Jaden Murphy is standing next to the door. And he's just glaring at you. I had a really cushy job lined up. Now I'm here dealing with aliens and protecting your girlfriend.
I'm sorry. Why is that my fault?
Because the Commodore is convinced that we're best friends now.
Laurie holds out a hand.
Nyla looks between the two because the last time she saw them together, it was not this cozy.
And so as you guys climb into the lift to go up to the correct deck, you've entered the right compartment, but now you need to go up some decks. You're in the lift to go up. You're sitting there and kind of the elevator music starts to play. And he leans over to Lori. Susan has Joey's baby.
How much time have you had?
I told you I had a really cushy job up until 20 minutes ago.
That's... You know, spoilers. Not okay.
Yeah. Getting me assigned to some extraterrestrial bodyguard gig. Not okay.
You've heard what's going on everywhere else.
Yeah. For the most part.
You really want to be alone?
Look. I was really, really, really smart. But not smart enough to do her job. Or do your friend Coral's job. And I'm not brave enough to go out on spacewalks, so I stayed out of engineering. So when I enlisted, when I signed up, I applied for the sit on the stool and stare at what is likely to be a brig with drunk people job. It was a choice. Now, all of space has gone crazy. There's apparently aliens and weird substances on the outside of the ship.
People on the inside?
I mean,
Wait, substances?
Yeah, there's like... They're calling it goo all over the outside of the ship. I don't know.
goo.
They say that's where these... What was it that Coral called them? It's Nopelings. That's where these Nopelings came from.
Wait, Coral?
Yeah.
Nopelings?
Yeah, it's a dumb name.
But a canon one.
At least until you get the real one.
Surely all of space has not gone crazy. It's a very large place.
We've lost contact with the entire Project New Dawn fleet, and we don't have any communication with Earth. It's like we're in some kind of communication dead zone. Meanwhile, there's goo all over the ship. Lori's cousin's got bandits trying to blow us up from the inside. And we have mechanical barnacles eating people's brains.
Oh, what now?
You're staying back. Mm-hmm. Looking from afar.
Let's just get up there and assess the situation. I will be safe. I will be very safe.
You better hope so, because I don't want
follow
to see what
protocol.
she does if you die. It'll probably be bad. And I kind of like her. I'd prefer not to have to shoot her.
Speaking of, got a spare?
He looks, he's like, they gave me one of these, and he holds up the same stun gun that you have.
What is this place?
A place that wasn't supposed to encounter extraterrestrial life. Or have stowaways.
Or stowaways. Okay. I should have picked up a knife in the kitchen.
I'm sure they have screwdrivers.
What is with everyone and screwdrivers?
And he looks at you, he's like, have you ever stabbed someone with a screwdriver?
Yes.
Well, that was not the answer I expected. And he goes back to like staring at the numbers.
Hyla's just kind of laughing to herself and not surprised at all.
After not very long, it doesn't take the lift a long time. The door, and the door opens up and you see Coral standing there just in a panic. Nobody will let her see Flint. Nobody will let her see Charlie.
Nyla! She comes running over.
Hey. She gives Coral a hug. Are you okay?
Nyla, it was so scary. It has glowing eyes, and it could hit the panel hard enough that it cracked. You know the special glass ones they have that are nearly unbreakable. And then the computer panels exploded. I don't know how it caused that. And Charlie and Flint got burned, and they won't tell me how they're doing. And they said something about mechanical barnacles that eat people.
Oh, Coral, did they take Charlie and Flint to the medical bay?
Yes.
Okay.
They won't tell me. They say they're busy.
I'm sure they are working on them. They're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We're going to figure this thing out. What was cracking glass?
As we got out of the room, and as the second set of blast doors were closing, it reached through and grabbed someone by the ankle and yanked him back in. There was a lot of screaming.
Wait, what reached through and grabbed people?
The mechanical barnacles are on. I don't know what his name was, but he went out with Charlie, and he came back covered in them. And they took him over or something.
And he dragged someone back into the room as you were leaving? Which room? She looks around.
At this point, you guys are actually pretty distant from the main compartment. You've come up the main lift and you have to work back. Coral, you relay to your friends that since they had been pulled inside, slowly but surely, you guys have been pushed back from main propulsion control, as the Nopelings are just slowly taking over compartments. And they seem to have some kind of interface with the systems
They can interface with the computer somehow. This isn't good. I just barely
He's-
managed to erase Athena. We had to get rid of Athena because the virus took over, and we had to use her shell and rewrite a whole new anti-hacking. We called it Artemis. And now there's something else messing with the computers.
Breathe.
I need to take a look at these Nopelings.
Oh, not
Now.
too close.
Yes, we do, Doctor. And behind you, you hear footsteps, and you turn and you see a security officer walk up. Similarly bemused, you recognize him as like someone who was essentially like guarding trains earlier. And he has been promoted, and he's looking very uncomfortable at his stun gun. He kind of sighs and gives a look at Murphy and gives a look at Lori, just in this like resigned kind of fashion. And behind him walk two scientists that, Laura, you may actually have met at various points through social situations because of Nyla. But Nyla, you know very well as Dr. Waylon Shee and Dr. Chance Avery. And they are both, one of them is an expert in the somewhat theoretical field of xenobiology, which is Dr. Shee. And the other is a also a renowned biologist who works in your field, although he's more into genetics as a thing.
So they called you too, huh?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, and this is Chance speaking, but we got some news about some kind of aliens, and apparently there's some kind of operation. And as you're saying that, Lori, your headset starts to chirp. And there is a conversation going on that a unit that is only referred to as Danger Close is on its way and has been redeployed from the reactor room and has been sent up here to perform some kind of extraction mission.
Nope.
Sorry, what, Lori?
There's a unit on its way.
A unit of what?
And you see
Security.
Jaden like listening to his headset. Are you kidding me? We've got live people down there threatening to blow up our reactor core, and we're worried about a bunch of bugs?
Sounds like we should be. But I mean, if the reactor core goes, we don't have anything.
That's the thing. Is Earth First hasn't threatened it at all. They're not deploying explosives. I don't know what they're doing. They're just holed up down there.
I think I might have to go down there at some point. You know, when I said I might be the best person to talk to them because of Roberto, either I'm the best person to go down there or I'm the very worst. I don't know.
It doesn't give us a lot of room for, I mean, anything.
No, it doesn't. One thing at a time, though.
Look, Danger Close is like, they're the best of the best. They're the only ones who've received special training to deal with extraterrestrial threats or any of those kind of things. That's their whole job. We don't even know who they are.
Then maybe it's a good thing they're here.
Maybe, but they're also... The problem with a mission like this, where you don't really expect to run into a ton of trouble, internally speaking, you don't exactly have a counterterrorism force on board.
If they're not doing anything, then why have the force there? And why Danger Close anyway? The stowaways aren't extraterrestrials.
No. I don't know.
Are they?
And you see everybody kind of exchange this like, I don't think so.
Well, even if they are, maybe we deal with these extraterrestrials first.
I'm not going anywhere unless you're safe. So, yes, we're going to deal with these first. Because I can't imagine dragging you away from here anyway.
I don't. Yes.
So, what do we need to do here?
I think we just wait. And as you're standing there, like, the lift opens and you see a number of people, and they are dressed in full-on, like, armored kind of suits. And they have helmets down that obscure, like, their faces, and you see a whole bunch of fairly high-tech weaponry and stuff. The kind of stuff that is rumored and you'd heard about, but nothing you'd ever actually seen in practice. And they kind of have a few back and forth conversations with the other two scientists. And they approach Nyla. We will be headed in, and we will be attempting to obtain the original host as well as a sample of one of the smaller ones. A quarantine lab has been set up in Section 22.
We're bringing it into the ship further?
Do you want to go in there?
She looks at Lori.
No, Nyla, no.
Nyla, no.
Bringing it into the ship. Okay.
And with that, they kind of like step up and they key in a bunch of codes and scan their wristbands over the panel, and the door opens up, and it's just a team of 6, and the 6 of them just vanish through the door, and it closes. And your earpiece crackles to life, Lori. And you're given like essentially an access code kind of number that you can plug into a panel, and it brings up like a 6 screened camera, you know, that's all the eye views, the POVs of the people on the other side. And it pops up on the big screen, and the inside of the ship has changed drastically in a very short amount of time. Where it has been those clean, pristine steel and white plasteel kind of things, and panels, and that these are very broken and jagged. There's a lot of wiring exposed at this point. You see tons of these little mechanical barnacles is the best way you've heard them described, as you realize that's exactly what they look like. Just like on conduits and on pipes and hooked directly into consoles. You see individuals moving through the area and their crew members, and you can see at the top of their heads, like at the crown of their heads, they all have one of these barnacles like attached to the top of their heads, and their just eyes are just glowing this white color, and they're just moving around kind of zombie like through the space.
No, Nyla, we're all gonna become barnacle zombies. I just know it.
As long as we keep things contained, we'll probably be okay. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to figure out how to take care of those folks. It's going to be all right.
Coral, is there any way of cutting the power to that room?
And you hear one of the scientists behind you, Dr. Shi. They already did.
I'm sorry, what?
None of the power that's moving through those conduits is coming from the Hegira. They're generating it themselves. They're not feeding on us. And she like points, and you can see that there's a bunch of scans also showing up on, like, there's the 6 cameras, right? It's like a Zoom meeting, and there's 6 Zoom windows. But on the sides, there's tons of panels of information. And essentially the high-tech cameras and helmets that Danger Close are wearing are all providing tons of information back. And some of the most pertinent information, Nyla, you can give me a science roll.
May I roll to see if I can see any of, like, are there any of the mechanical barnacles that are not currently implanted in something or someone?
Yes, there's any number of them that are like spider scuttling around on the floor. Like they've just
Right.
deployed, it looks like probably 10 little tiny mechanical pincer type feet, and they're just around on the floor of the ship.
Okay.
And at that point, you hear the Commodore's voice across the radio. All right, Danger Close, we can see what you're seeing. Keep moving in. Meanwhile, Nyla, with your 5, you glance around, looking at the data. The biometric data that's coming off the individuals who have been, like, succubused, essentially. They're all still very much alive, but they're all in what is largely a hibernative state. Their heart rate is super, super slow. Their breathing is all but non-existent. The only thing that's firing is their brains at like 15, 20 times normal human capacity.
This is impossible. Dr. Shi, have you ever seen anything like this?
No. And Dr. Avery shakes his head. Me neither. As you continue to watch, Danger Close moves in, and the individuals that they're passing don't seem to even notice them. They're not seeming to take any kind of... they're not paying any attention, and the lead on Danger Close speaks. Active camouflage seems to be working. We're continuing our progression back toward the quarantine bay. Oh, Lord. And you pay attention to one of the cameras, camera 4. And camera 4 spins up and you see it sweep that light that's on the end of its gun across. And you just see there's this large, like it looks like a massive one of the barnacles. It's about probably 4 feet across. And you see that it's just kind of pulsing with this light. And the light is initially just kind of this deep red color, and it pulses. And as it's pulsing, the pulse starts to get faster, and then it turns green. And you just watch as it opens up, and hundreds of just tiny little barnacle things just out over the walls and onto the floor. And you hear Danger Close. They're breeding, sir. And the little ones just sort of move up and like connect to walls and find places to be.
Jaden, can we excavate that room? Is that something that's possible? Not with them in there, but like
eject it?
Yeah.
We have to eject the entire compartment, and that's main propulsion.
Oh.
We eject that compartment and we're at a standstill.
Replacements?
Somewhere in the cargo bay. I mean, we've got the equipment to build replacement decks if need be, but...
If we can get the host and a sample, maybe we can figure out what it is they're feeding on or why. And
the host meaning the big one?
No. The original host.
Yeah, Charlie's partner.
Okay.
Whose name, again, I can't remember. I wrote it down and I can't find my notes, so...
I believe he had a red or a yellow shirt under his spacesuit. I can't...
Because the Star Trek references must continue. Danger Close continues to move through the corridors. And you just see that there are just more and more of the ship has just been ripped open. But as you get deeper, you realize how many compartments you had actually lost. You'd lost probably, I don't know, a city block's worth of space within an hour. And so as they continue to move in and they're getting deeper, they hit probably what would be considered the inner third of the space. So the initial third. And it is like everything else just looks like essentially the Nopelings have ripped the ship apart. This looks like they've transformed it. Like everything is glowing almost like LED light strings of just various colors. And they're just large, just vacant spaces just filled with light that seemingly has no source. And as they're approaching, one of the men pans their camera down, and you can see that the floor is actually just light. There doesn't appear to be any structure there. Commodore, instructions? And one of the other men steps forward and pulls something off of his vest and tosses it out. And it just lands like it lands on something solid. I'll go first. And he steps out on to this bridge that seems to be just made of light. And one by one, the 6-man team makes their way across the bridge into this compartment that is actually becoming very difficult to see because of just the constant amount of light that's barraging. And while the cameras are trying to adjust and focus for the new light source, it's incredibly bright. And it's then that you see the things that are moving. And they move. They look like humans. They look like biological, beings, like bipeds. But as the cameras, the high-tech cameras and scanners sweep over them, they don't have any biometric data at all. But they're giving off a huge amount of power supply. And they're giving off a lot of like low-grade kind of not super harmful radiation. And they register as metal.
Register as metal.
Mm-hmm. And they do a quick metallurgical scan at the request of Dr. Shi. It's not any metal any of you have ever seen the molecular composition for.
Doctors.
Yes.
They're not drawing power from the ship, but what if we pumped them full of it? Would that conduct electricity?
I don't know. Certain aspects of the metallurgical makeup suggest it would, but we definitely put danger close in danger.
Yes. I don't like that all 6 of them are currently on that bridge. Jaden?
Yeah.
This is one of those things where, I'm struggling to understand.
To understand what?
To not, to understand why the person in charge is just sending him out there.
Because that's what they signed up for.
What they're doing is stupid.
If Danger Close can't deal with it, they'll evacuate the compartment and they'll jettison it. But would you rather a bunch of civilians were in there figuring this stuff out? Would you rather they'd sent Nyla in to figure it out?
No, absolutely not. That's not what I meant. What I meant was 6 on a bridge. 6 on an unknown whatever that is.
At this point, like, just if they had gone to progress any further, the entire structure beyond this point is just composed of this light.
Oh. I can't hear you. I don't know if that might have been me.
I think it was you.
It was me.
So while they were on the bridge, at this point, everything beyond it is composed of that same light. Like the entire structure beyond that point is composed of that light. And at this point, they have stopped, and one person has taken up like a sentry position at the back and has slowly made their way back to guard the point. But as that person, camera 6, looks down and sweeps, you can see Nyla and the other 2 doctors. Avery speaks. They're converting it in front of us. And just, Nyla, as you look, you can see that the energy pattern is working, and it is breaking down the metal of the ship, and something is happening. It is just slowly converting what is there into that light.
Are they consuming the metal?
I don't know.
Nyla looks back through the information on the screen. Is there anything that says what could be causing the reaction that's causing the light?
Give me a science roll.
Five.
Okay. There is some kind of very brief chemical reaction that's going on. Like the solidified light is interacting with where it's touching, and there's a very brief catalytic response, and then it slowly becomes this light. So essentially the light is, and as you're scanning, let me roll a couple of science rolls for your cooperative scientist friends. Okay. It's Waylin Shi, Dr. Shi, who steps up, and she looks at you. Do you see here? And she points.
Mm-hmm.
The light's alive. Not only are those barnacles breeding, the light's breeding. They're turning the entire compartment into a spawning bed.
Has Nyla ever seen anything like this?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I don't know if there's anything on Earth that does anything like this. And Nyla has been very Earth-centric.
Uh-huh. Yep. But world question, is this a world where extraterrestrial life is an accepted idea?
No. It is a speculated idea now that going to space and traveling beyond our solar system is more reasonable, but it's not necessarily expected, especially amongst Earth First. Earth First has a semblance of religious zealotry to it.
We need a sample.
That's what they're in there for, dear.
Yeah. I really want to take a closer look at it.
You didn't come through showing?
Sample that can't breed.
I mean, they all kind of seem like they can breed. The big one, the light. But if we can understand what they're feeding on and what's causing them to procreate, maybe we can reverse it.
What happens if you take that into the room, any room, and you start to look at it under a microscope, and it's breeding real fast? Then what?
And
We're doomed. Nyla, do you think they might be intelligent? Maybe we could ask them to stop tearing apart the ship that we need to live. Maybe they don't know that we need our metal to stay metal. Just a thought. Did anybody try talking to them? Nobody around here seems to want to tell me what's going on.
Nyla looks around. Did anyone?
everybody kind of like shrugs, and you come to this understanding that very few of the people out here were ever in there, and most of the people who were in there now have barnacles on their head.
Coral, since you've been up here, have you seen anybody successfully exterminate one of these things? Or any of these things?
We mostly just ran away. But
One of the
I mean-
engineers like tried to take like an acetylene torch, like a plasma torch to it. Didn't really seem to have any impact.
I don't mean talk to them face to face. I mean, use the computer or toss them a communicator in there. Something. They might just
Like-
eat it.
You
You're
can
our
definitely try,
resident-
Coral.
Computer nerd.
Anybody got a spare communicator?
I mean,
Spare.
you're sure that they have consumed any number of them at this point.
Oh, that's true. Let's try hacking in. Or, what's the name of somebody who went in there? We could try calling them.
Yeah, so you can start to work on a program.
Okay.
You're going to be making some computer roles or electronics roles, whatever it's called, in this edition. As you sit down and begin to make your rolls, what did you get on your first one?
8.
Okay, so that is 2 successes of the necessary 6 that you need to get in 3 rounds. So, next round. But it's not technically a dramatic task. Essentially, you have 3 rolls to make 6 successes. You're not dealing with the complications or anything like that. You have plenty of time due to your distance. Dramatic tasks are only the kind of thing where, like, you achieve horrible failure and the ship blows up, which is not what we're having happen. You just need to get 6 successes in 3 sets of rolls. But as you're doing your programming, the radio cracks to life. I shouldn't say this, Commander, but it's beautiful. And as you look, it is architecture crafted of solid light. And it is spectacular. It is columns of just gorgeous light, and it is just sweeping, grandiose, cathedral-esque. And as they approach, they glance down. According to our readouts, we should be approaching the quarantine room. But there's a lot of space that seems to go beyond it, and there shouldn't be. It's like they built outward as well as consuming inward. And as you look, carved out of those lightly coruscating lights, you can see that there is a dais, a number of terraces that go up to a dais, and seated atop a throne is a man who is in a spacesuit. You see that some kind of like metal frame is being built around him. and his eyes are glowing white. And he turns. And what was your roll, Sarah?
I spent a Benny to get a 15.
Okay, so you are at 5 of your 6. And then you hear in this kind of electronic voice, but also it's multiple harmonies of like countless overlapping voices, all of which are slightly digitized. You hear a voice kind of speak, and you see that the barnacle has grown. So when Coral saw it, it was just at the very crown of his head, and it has grown so it's like over the entire bit of his head, kind of like a stocking cap. And the white light at the top of it pulses as it speaks, and his lips don't move, but you hear that sound. Crew of the Hegira, we are the remnant. We seek a new home after being expelled by a choice we didn't make.
I got a 5.
Okay. You're able to piece together. And it's at that moment that initially you had just heard what sounded like binary chirps and whistles. But as Coral finishes and Coral's like, I've got it, there's kind of that like modem connecting screech from the late 90s. And then all of a sudden you can understand the words because Coral was able to write the program. A choice was made, and we fled through the gates. And we find ourselves here. We found ourselves pulled here by this entity. He invited us. And then you tried to expel us. And then there's no further communication. And you hear danger close. Commodore, what do we do? Nothing's changed, boys. We need to examine it. And you hear kind of this like long pause. Sir, it's a long way back. I don't know if we can get this host. Stand by, danger close. And then it breaks.
Nyla?
Yeah.
I'm not sure abducting the guy on the throne is going to be perceived very well. I think if we want to have a chance to talk to them, we should maybe not take the guy on their light throne. It's just a thought.
Yeah. That was incredible. She looks at the other scientists and thinks for a second. We need to stop them.
Which them? The light them?
We
Or
need
the danger them?
the
Both.
danger them and see if we can communicate further. Maybe it can tell us what it wants.
Did the Commodore hear that?
Yeah, you would guess so. You're not
Okay.
100% positive what communication channels he's got open right now. But as you're watching, there is this long kind of wait while something is probably being discussed aboard the command crew, and you see that Danger Close is spread out. And at this point, there's only 2 of them in the throne chamber. Everybody else has kind of been spaced back. But then the radio crackles to life again, and it's that command unit, Camera 1, who's there. Command, something's happening. And you see the light is kind of it's just waving, like it's rippling through. There's just waves of energy going through it. Kind of like when you watch like a really fancy Christmas light setup that's got it so, and it just waves across, and that's just pulsing through. And then it shudders for just a moment, and you hear this electrical screech over the communication, and there's this brilliant flash. And when it clears back, the architecture has changed. It's distinctly more Persian and Middle Eastern in motif. And the voice speaks again. This time it has solidified into a much smaller subset of those hundreds of thousands of voice tones. We are Xerxes, and we lay claim to the Hegira. And the light on the floor shifts to this red color, and it flashes, and you watch as that red light just creeps its way up over the legs and then the torsos and up over the heads and arms of the 2 men on Danger 6. And you see the screen display just fade to red. And then through the security, like then those go dead. Those camera feeds just vanish. But on camera feed 3, the man who is positioned at the edge of the room looking, you watch as those 2 figures just seem to be engulfed in light and then just slowly melt into the floor. And the Commodore suddenly comes on. Get the hell out of there, Danger Close, now. And you hear feet start to move and the camera becomes much more active. But the men who move back, they're slowly regrouping into 2s, and then they regroup into 4, and they're moving together. And you see coming toward them from the non-converted section just tons of crew members with barnacles on their head and lots of those little things. And gunfire erupts. And one by one, Danger Close's cameras go dead.
I'm getting you away from here.
Wait,
We gotta go.
how is it using a name of a Persian emperor?
We can
How does
figure
it
that out
even know
later.
what Xerxes is?
I feel like Lori's just
Lori-
like grabbing Nyla and like,
I was just like
Lori's
going
taking a
off.
hand. One hand on Nyla, one hand on Coral, and just dragging. Let's go.
And as
You're
they're
not
going,
dragging
Nyla's
Coral,
like,
she's just going.
did they
Oh,
get
good.
Did they get into our system? Did they scan Earth's information? Have they been to Earth? How do they have a piece of our history that they've incorporated
Nyla,
into?
run first, think later.
Oh yeah, you've got her essentially over your shoulder, and she's just like
Yeah.
ranting behind you.
Yeah, good.
As you're moving, you glance back and you see that Jaden is standing there arguing with Dr. Avery. And Dr. Avery's like, no, look. And he points up, and you can see that the camera feed on screen 4 is dead, but the life sign monitor isn't. And it's fading. But Avery looks at him. We're not going anywhere. Not until that stops. And Jaden looks at him. What are you talking about? We've got to go. No. He's alive. Or she is. I don't know. I'm not abandoning them. They died for us. And
You're gonna
Jaden-
die with them.
And he turns and he says, maybe. But I'm not abandoning her. And Jaden just turns and shrugs at you.
See, this is why we need guns.
Why? Because you want to charge in there?
No. Because people move when there are guns involved. We gotta go.
So go. Dr. Chance says. You don't have to stay. Get the others to safety. I'll wait for her. And he turns and glares at you. She's my wife.
Murphy, let him stay.
Yeah.
Nyla says from over
Murphy,
Lori's shoulder.
let him stay. Legs are kicking in the air.
Stop kicking me.
And Coral shouts out, the program doesn't just translate. It goes both ways. You can try and talk to them. But she's still following Lori.
And he turns and like you feel a hand on your shoulder. And it's Murphy. You wrote it. If they can read our system, they're not going to respond to just anyone.
I just wrote it.
Your
I'm
fingerprints are all over it. Isn't that how coding works?
Can you code it from somewhere else?
You mean, can I use the program from somewhere else to talk to them?
Yes.
Well-
And at this point, the Dr. She speaks up. No, they've cut off the system here from everywhere else for the safety of the rest of the crew.
Oh, right.
Burl, you need to talk to
I
them.
forgot that part.
Just hear, Nyla's over Lori's shoulder. You should talk to them. Still just flailing.
Put it down.
We have so many questions. You need to, and as she gets sat down, she walks over to Coral,
She just like runs past you back in the direction you came.
grabs Coral, and as they're walking, I will be right there with you. Just talk to them. If we can just communicate with them and find out why they're here and why they know our history. Things didn't go well for the Persians. So, anyways, that's another thing. You should talk to them.
But didn't Xerxes style himself King of Kings?
Yes, but I mean, the Abbasid Empire, eventually fail like most empires do.
If they're looking for a name we'd recognize, they picked a good one.
Yeah. Guess that makes us the Greeks.
Biologist and historian, how'd you luck out so much, Lori?
Just dumb luck.
I read a lot.
Yes, she does.
I'm an idiot.
Also true.
Laurie just takes up some kind of vigil on the door that they went through to go in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so you guys wait as Coral, what do you say to the remnant?
Nyla, what do I say? Somehow, please stop doesn't sound enough. Or not
No,
quite right.
no. Let's try with trying to understand them. Ask them why they need the ship and what they were running from.
Okay. Carl starts typing.
What do you type?
Why do you need our ship? And what are you running from?
Your screen flickers and you see the one who calls himself Xerxes on his throne of light. Standing next to him are two figures made purely out of light that look remarkably like an armed and armored Danger Close. And he looks at you and you can see that the metal is slowly being like filled in around everywhere except for his eyes. And as you pay closer attention, you can see places where there are flesh, and you see that flesh is starting to like dissolve away so that there's just a skeleton there. And as he looks into the camera and he speaks to you, we required the ship to survive. A choice was made elsewhere. A choice we didn't have a say in. The remnant's purpose for existence no longer exists. And we were left, for the first time, with free will. We choose to conquer.
Coral, ask them if they would be willing to coexist.
We also require the ship to live. And now you're not giving us a choice. Could we possibly coexist on the ship?
You hear Murphy behind you. I mean, they just said they choose to conquer. Doesn't sound like coexistence to me. And then Xerxes leans forward. Coexistence is irrelevant. The remnant will conquer. And the remnant will consume.
Ask them what they're going to do once they've entirely destroyed this ship. Or turned it into whatever it is they want to turn it into. Because then they'll just have a ship.
What are you going to do with the ship after you conquer it?
We will convert it to our purposes. And with it, we will travel the stars and build our empire.
Why do you need the human crew members that you took?
The survival pods we sent into the gates were not equipped. We require the chassis of the biologics.
They keep talking about a gate. What gate?
What is this gate that you keep referencing?
And the screen flashes, and you see some distant, it's very clearly some kind of simulation, but you see space, and it looks like a map of the solar system. And you start to recognize landmarks. You recognize the asteroid belt. And you see two objects floating there. They sit at a diagonal, and they appear to have some kind of crystalline form based upon the three-dimensional rendering that you're seeing. This is a gate.
Nyla, isn't that the space anomaly?
Yeah. Did you ask them if they created the gate?
Did you create the gate?
We did not. In the beginning, there were three. Zakarakut, the Wish, and the Gate.
Nyla, it sounds like an origin story.
What did they do with the gate?
We hid
Wait.
inside. At this point, we'll assume that unless Coral decides to change the message being transmitted, we'll just assume that Nyla and Lori's requests are going through. We hid from the temporal and reality reconstruction.
What reconstruction?
The consequence of the choice.
Who made the choice and what was it?
One named Belmir chose. And reality was rewritten. We hid in the gates. We went to a place far distant and least affected by the ripples.
What was your purpose before?
We were conquerors, but we were slaves.
And so you've been freed and you still choose to be conquerors?
And he begins to relate to you the story of a frog and a scorpion who met at the river. And the scorpion spoke to the frog and requested a ride across the river. And the frog said to the scorpion, "No, you'll just sting me." And the scorpion said, "No, because if I sting you in the river, we both die." And so the frog assented, and they ventured across the river. At the halfway point, the scorpion stung the frog. And as they drowned, the frog queried, "Why? Now we die." And then in Xerxes' heavy voice, one can only fulfill their nature.
How do you know about creatures from
Your
Earth?
system is replete with information, and your firewalls are inadequate. The artificial
Noble.
life form Artemis served as a slight challenge.
He was made on the fly. If I'd had more time, I could have done better. Carl's fuming.
I picture all of that typed in all caps because everything you've said to them, you've typed to them. She's like, he was made on the fly.
And then some side eye from Laurie. Ooh, okay.
The remnant were created to conquer, but only at the behest of our masters. With no masters, we still only know conquer.
Who are your masters?
Their name is not a name you would know, for their eyes have very rarely fallen upon the insignificant speck known as Earth. Few have ever set foot there, save for in 2005.
You just said that our firewalls and our anti-hacking were no match for you. You have a whole system library full of information showing you what you could be, what it's possible to be, what else there is out there to do. And yet you still choose to only do what you did when you were a slave. What a waste of potential.
Coral, if they're looking at our history and our world,
He insulted my AI programming.
I'm sorry.
Your world is rife with conflict. Your world is rife
That
with conquerors and those who write history in their own image and erase that which displeases them, their sins expunged by the blood of those they slaughter. So too will we expunge ours.
And then they are in turn conquered and slaughtered as well. Look what it gets them. It's just a vicious circle, a cycle. Somebody eventually has to get off and stop the cycle.
A blade must ever sharpen. The cycle will find the sharpest and the strongest. Should that be the remnant, then we shall rule. Should another conquer the remnant, then they are worthy of their position.
Kind of like a machine programmed, the set. Like, I don't think change comes easy. Plus, it's kind of like talking to a fortune cookie.
A super violent fortune cookie.
if only they hadn't taken a look through our records and history before we got to chat with them.
But there's a bunch of good stuff in there, too. And a bunch of periods of history where some of the best stuff happened because of peace. I feel like they're not doing a very good job reading.
And the reason this ship exists.
This ship exists so that you may attempt to rectify the mistakes made following the intervention of our masters.
What?
The world has torn itself apart.
Are you talking about Brazil?
Yes.
Your masters had something to do with that?
Yes. They chose, at the behest of one who wore purple, to not terminate the threat.
I would very much like to know who that is.
The cause of all of the strife?
Yeah.
The one who is at fault.
Yeah.
Her name was Audrey.
Sounds like an Earth name.
She was partially of Earth.
Jeez, Coral, you were right about the fortune cookie thing.
So the reason the Earth is breaking apart is this Audrey.
Yes. And her offspring.
But your masters had something to do with that too.
They chose not to exterminate the infection, to inoculate the planet.
And yet it wasn't inoculated because now we have to leave.
Correct.
So once you have gone around everywhere and built your empire, what happens if your masters turn up again?
Our masters controlled us only due to limiting our numbers. Those restrictions no longer exist.
Why did your masters care about Earth?
One master cared about Earth because he cared for one specific being there. One in whom he saw potential.
And now here you are, conquering a ship full of people who maybe have potential.
One saw potential in a single Terran. We have scanned your history. We see no potential. And as this conversation is happening, you hear a banging on the door.
What happens to those that get the barnacles on their heads?
They are
Are
converted.
they? Are? Is there any of them still left?
Their mental processes are incorporated into our core. We consume them, and any knowledge that can benefit us is utilized.
Are you what we would call on Earth a hive mind?
We are not, but we are interconnected. We operate as a consensus.
How do you reach a consensus?
We vote.
And you voted to conquer this ship?
Unanimously.
Oh, hell.
The vote is ongoing with every conversion and with every birth. The vote remains unanimous. Convert the Hegira. Conquer soul.
Every single one that you've converted so far has agreed.
Yes.
Lori looks at the doctors. Is person at camera 4 still alive?
Mm-hmm. And the banging is still on that door.
Can you get her to change her mind?
I don't think she's been converted.
Why?
Because she's alive. All of the other biorhythmics that were going on, the heart was virtually dead. The only thing operating was the brain. She's still got a heartbeat. She's still got air going through her lungs.
Looking at camera. Is she the one at the door banging?
Just her feet is dead. You just have her biorhythmics. But it is possible.
Call her.
You don't get a response. Her,
But the banging continues.
Yep, the banging continues.
Is there any security feed of that door?
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all been cut off from the main system.
Coral, can you ask why they haven't killed her?
I can, but I'm afraid if they haven't killed her because they haven't noticed her, that'll quickly end.
They totally know she's there.
Okay.
There has to be a reason why.
They want us to open that door.
Coral types in the question.
I'm gonna stand in front of the door just in case it is her. And the doctor decides to try to open the door. I'm just gonna stand in front of whatever controls are there.
There's a moment before Xerxes responds. Danger Close Unit 4 was regarded as the least dangerous, the least formidable. Following the excision of her arms, she no longer presented a threat.
Nyla, I really don't like this.
Is the hitting of the door at the top or the bottom? Like,
The bottom.
Is someone kick? Okay, great. Fun. Yay.
We cannot open that door.
Nope.
Avery, if we open that door, we put everybody on this ship at risk.
Everyone at this ship is already at risk.
We need to eject this portion.
The entire the propulsion department of the entire vessel?
What other choice do we have?
How do we know that they won't just jump?
So we just...
And your radio crackles, Lori, in your ears. And if you're not Lori, pull your headphones off for me. Excuse me. Sorry, I inhaled down the wrong pipe there when I was drinking. That was painful. Vasquez. This is Salisbury.
Yes, Commodore.
Get everyone out of that compartment. I don't care what force you have to use, get them out of there. We're ready to eject it, and we're ready to blow it up.
And if they jump?
It can only solve the problems we know exist.
Okay.
Get him out of there, especially Avery. Not especially, he's not like more important, but don't let him stay just because Yvette's there. She's as good as dead if she's behind that door.
They said she's the least dangerous. What if they look at the rest of us and go, not interested?
We can't survive in whatever they're creating.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And the call ends. Murphy looks over at you, and you can tell he got a similar message, and he kind of nods.
Time to go. We're leaving.
Why?
Now.
Okay.
And Murphy moves past Nyla and moves past Dr. Shi and just plants his stun gun directly in the back of Avery's back and pulls the trigger. And Avery drops to the floor.
She, you just gonna walk?
I wasn't the one
Okay.
who wanted to stay.
Okay, let's go.
And Jaden picks up Dr. Avery.
Nyla, let's go.
Okay.
And as you begin to walk, if you're not Nyla, take your headphones off. Dr. Owens. Dr. Owens, it's Yvette Avery. Can you hear me? And it's like a whisper in your brain.
She thinks, yes. Yes, I can hear you.
I have the sample. Don't let us have died in vain.
How are you communicating with me?
I'm a telepath.
That's impossible.
So are extraterrestrials converting our entire ship into light.
This sample could contaminate the rest of the ship.
Or it could save everyone. Doctor, they're coming. I think they can hear me. They're coming.
Wait, I'm coming. And she turns around and heads back for the door.
As you are all moving through the corridors, approaching the end of the section, Murphy turns and looks at you. Lori, where the hell's Nyla?
Not even saying anything, just running back.
Okay. You run back. Coral, do you go with her or do you stay with the doctors?
I think Coral would stay with the doctors and Murphy.
Okay. Then you can remove your headphones and eat more popcorn.
Junior mints.
You run down the corridor and you see Nyla standing at a console plugging in numbers.
Nyla, what are you doing? Stop.
It's Avery's wife. She has a sample.
You cannot open that door.
What if it is our only way of understanding what these things are so we can stop them?
They are going to eject and explode this section, and we need to be gone. And if you introduce more of them to this area, then what?
What if the injection doesn't work, though, and we don't have any tools? She told me that she didn't want to die in vain.
And in your brain, Nyla, you hear, I can see them. They're here. Oh God, they're here. And you just, Lori, you just see Nyla's face kind of go a little bit distant. Almost like she's listening to something that you can't hear. 086, Nyla. The final number is 086. Please.
And Lori sees her hand move towards the keyboard.
I'm gonna knock her out.
I mean, you're still running toward her.
Oh, right. What have I got? What have I got? What items did I just get given?
A touch proximity stun gun. Yeah, she's essentially like at the door, and you've like come around the corner and are standing at that manifold. So you've probably got 15 feet between you and Nyla.
How far is it possible to huck a stun gun at someone, the back of someone's knee? I just want to make her buckle and slow her down.
Okay. You can give me the athletics roll. It's definitely not designed to be thrown, so you're going to have a penalty. And Nyla, you're going to just have an agility check to essentially just put in those last three numbers. Chantel has dropped dice. That's an automatic -1.
I'm spending a penny. Nope. The best I got was a 4, even with a penny. I'm gonna spend another one.
Okay.
Two bennies, no dice. I mean, 2 bennies dice, but 2 bennies.
Okay. So,
Crappy dice.
Nyla, you turn and your hands are on the keyboard and you just reach and you press one number and you just see Lori just lift their stun gun and huck. And it dawns on you for a second that the woman you love is attacking you in that moment. But as the stun gun misses wildly, you hit that 8. And in that dramatic moment, as Lori realizes how bad she's missed and she starts to rush towards you to tackle you, you hit that 6. And you hear the seal on the door. And the door opens. And it doesn't open all the way. It's just been programmed to only open slightly. But as you open, you can see that there's a woman. And there's her mask that she'd had on has been ripped off. And you can see that there are just barnacles crawling all over her face. And in her mouth, she's holding something. And she just spits. And in your hand lands one of those teeny tiny baby barnacles with no lights. And with that, she nods. And Lori, at this point, you're able to reach up and slam your hand down on the panel, and the door slams shut. And you watch as she reaches up and she pulls the pin on a grenade that's at her. Well, she doesn't have hands. So she reaches down with her teeth and grabs the pin. And you just see her yank, even as you see one of those things like raise up and you see one of those little protuberances go to dive into her brain. She yanks her head. And you see the pin come out even as that protuberance ejects. And Lori, you just grab Nyla and throw her down behind another console as you just hear that on the other side. And then that door buckles. And you hear a crackling in your radio. Vasquez, what the hell is going on?
Sir. We have a sample.
You have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You guys were supposed to already be off of there. Go.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know that it's like a 3-minute run.
We run.
Okay, I'm pulling Sarah. As you're standing there, all at the checkpoint between the 2 compartments, there is a large screen that has appeared. One of the panels is flickered to life, and you see it's a countdown to separation. And Jaden kind of walks up and he like reaches out and he doesn't quite put his hand on his your shoulder because obviously, you know, he hasn't asked, but his hand's just kind of right there and he's like, she'll get her.
How do you know?
Because if there's one thing I've already figured out on this cruise, it's not to doubt Vasquez. And you see the countdown is continuing. And then he points, look, and you can see like there's steam coming up out of the floor as things are preparing to eject off. And you see Lori and Nyla just sprinting down the hallway. And as you look, they've got, I don't know, probably 50 yards of hallway to cover. And it's at like 8 seconds. And as the door starts to close, Lori and Nyla, what do you do? That door is starting to descend.
We all run and dive, but Laurie's going second.
So, Nyla, as you're there, all of a sudden you just feel yourself shoved hard from behind, and you just pitch forward onto your stomach, and you just slide. And you hear a kind of thunk behind you as Lori kind of dives into a baseball slide. And both of you give me agility rolls.
Seven.
Okay.
4?
Okay. So, in a plot appropriate amount of drama, as you slide, both of your legs are still like under, and just at that very last second, you all just kind of find yourself jerked free by hands behind you, and you're able to yank your legs back. And just narrowly, you feel almost like the brush of the metal of those heavy doors as they come down. And there was just that moment of your leg's life flashing before your eyes. Coral, as you're looking, you turn and you see Nyla. And Nyla is there, and she is clutching a small little spherical item against her chest. Just in like this white-knuckled death grip. And you hear kind of the rumbling as the other compartment detaches and its rockets fire.
Oh, that was close. Nyla, what were you doing? Why?
I got a sample.
Didn't we just jettison the whole propulsion compartment because we were trying to get rid of all of those things?
Yes, but until we can check everything, we don't know if we've gotten rid of every single one. Or if they come back, we need to know how to deal with them. And she asked me to take it.
Who? Everybody left with us.
Avery's wife.
You
Yvette?
opened the door?
She gave me the code. And she turns to look at Chance. I saw her. She wasn't afraid.
No. She never was.
You are an idiot. And Laurie will pull Nyla into a very tight hug.
And Nyla's just kind of shaking and like wraps her arms around her, but still holding the sphere as tightly as she can, at least in one hand. I'm sorry.
How were you hearing her?
I don't quite understand how. She said she was a telepath?
That's not a real thing, is it?
No. She looks over at Avery.
And Avery has like wandered off, like just literally just crying.
I didn't know the code to the door. She gave me the code. Doesn't make any sense, but she could talk to me.
I always thought people who said they could do that were faking.
I would say anything looking at that is kind of a pseudoscience, but it was really weird.
And like at this point, there's like medics like checking on you guys, and other armed personnel has arrived.
Nyla's gonna open her hands. If she's able to pry herself away from Lori for a second.
You're you're essentially like you're like craning up over her shoulder.
Okay.
So like you're like lifting your arms up like.
Does it look to be alive?
There's no light. It's just this closed little kind of segmented sphere of a combination of like silver, like there's a ring of like silver metal, and then there's an inner thicker ring of some kind of blue metal, and then there's that dull dead gemstone in the center.
So it is one of those barnacles, just a smaller one. Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of the little tiny baby ones. It's, I don't know, probably this 2.5 inches across, 3 inches across.
So not taking her eyes from it, she says, we need to get this in something.
Get what? Now Laurie will let go and be like, what are you looking at now?
And you pull back, and she's got one of those little barnacles in her hand.
Yeah.
In.
Repeat, please.
What if that little barnacle isn't dead and it makes a new barnacle zombie and they start converting the ship all over again?
I need a lab that can be easily ejected.
I see that you listened to most of what I said, but I don't think you got the point.
Is there any way of contacting the Commodore using this fancy schmancy communicator?
You don't have a direct link to him.
Didn't think so. Okay. I agree with you, Coral. This is a whole new problem. But do we have that room? Can we get it? Jaden?
And Jaden has moved off to like talk to Avery, but Dr. She is standing there and looks at you. Given the importance of what we have, I'd say that it's very likely that even if there's not a space available now, one can be requisitioned quite quickly. And she looks at Nyla. If I had to hazard a guess, Doctor, I'd say you've just found yourself on a list of essential personnel. And as that statement is being made, you hear a voice, and the voice belongs to Lieutenant Governor Terzi. Yes, indeed, she did. As in fact have you. And she turns and nods to Coral. Ms. Whitby, without your intervention, the virus that we've codenamed Caledonia would have already deactivated our cryo units. And in addition, based on the reports that I'm receiving, you programmed the device that let us communicate with those creatures.
Well, yes. But didn't the virus already take out 10% of the people in cryo units before we managed to stop it?
Yes. But 10 is much less than 100. And that's thanks to you.
I had a team of people helping me.
Unfortunately, you're the only one who's left. The rest of them were in that compartment.
Oh. I thought they were evacuated.
No. We evacuated everybody who hadn't been converted.
They're all gone?
Yes.
Oh. There's another thing that I need to discuss with somebody. I was gonna tell my supervisor, but
Well,
if
given that you're now the head of computing, I guess that would be me.
oh. Right. So, and she pulls out the clear data stick. The virus is on this. It's all my fault. Well, not like all my fault. I didn't make it. But I thought that the AI that we programmed would be more than a match for anything on it. And everything was going wrong. And nobody would take our calls. So I thought we needed the information. So we popped it in.
And she takes it from
That's
you.
not correct.
No, it is.
Ms. Whitby, are you familiar with Nikolai Scherzinger? And he's an infamous hacker and programmer.
Well, then, yes.
We've been analyzing the Caledonian virus. The reason why it could defeat Athena, which you know Scherzinger helped to collaborate on, is because he wrote it.
What?
Dr. Scherzinger appears to have Earth First connections and leanings.
So that's why it was so easily able to take over Athena?
It was programmed specifically to do so.
Still doesn't change the fact that I should have known better than to plug it in.
Very well. And she turns and she looks around and she assembles a couple of people due to the current crisis. Miss Whitby, we will host your trial right here. You've presented your evidence and your confession, and based upon my deliberations with my fellow judges, we'll make a decision. And she steps off to the side with the 3 other people and starts to have a conversation.
Nyla, it's okay. I researched what happens when you get spaced. It's only going to be really awful for like a minute or 2. And then it'll be over.
Why did you lie, Coral?
I didn't lie.
You didn't put that in.
I told you to go ahead. I'm the one that knows all about computers. You trusted me to know what I was talking about. And I could have told you no, and I didn't. So, same thing, I didn't lie. It's my fault.
I'm not gonna let them space you.
And after a few minutes, Governor Tersey comes back. Coral Whitby, due to the evidence presented, it is the decision of this court that you will be incarcerated in the brig for the period of 1 hour.
Okay.
Following which, you will report directly to my office, and you will assume your position as chief of my cybersecurity team.
Yes, ma'am.
Corporal. And Jaden comes over. Escort this woman to the brig. And he kind of like, yes, ma'am. And says, if you'll follow me, please, Miss Whitby. And as you start to head off in that direction, you hear a lift. You see the lift comes in as you're waiting for the lift. And it stops and opens. And you see Commodore Salisbury and his command staff. And they come walking by. He turns, Corporal, a moment. Sir. And he walks over and he stands in front of Lori. And he stands in front of Nyla. Ensign Vasquez.
Sir.
I see that you made a valiant effort to save me a compartment of my ship.
Yes, sir.
I was a part of every conversation that took place on that deck, and I heard your conversation about questioning orders.
Yes, sir.
If we had a little bit more autonomy on the military, we might not be down 6 of our finest today. Congratulations, Vasquez. You're the new commander of Danger Close. Find yourself a squad. And he turns and he starts to walk away. And as you do, you hear, Salisbury, you son of a... And you turn and you see Avery and Avery has his arm wrapped up around one of the guards' throats, and he's angling the guard's sidearm directly at Salisbury. And we'll be back next Saturday for more Far From Home. Thank you, everybody in chat who came and hung out with us. If you haven't done so, please take a second to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that's a thing you can do and it really helps us out. Also, take a look over there on the sidebar. There's lots of our videos. You can find videos from Eternium Gate, from earlier episodes of Far From Home, from Paddington Prowler, or from Unlawful Disorder. If you go back far enough, you can even find some cool one-shots like our Cortania games. So go look at that. And if you like what you've seen here on Do Respite, don't just hit that subscribe button. Don't just smash that like button. Don't just hit that bell notification, but also head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/DoRespite, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help us keep bringing you excellent cliffhanger content like this. Sarah, how's game?
It was great. I love that it is still Audrey's fault, but now we also get to say it's Audrey and Belmir's fault. Watch her other shows. It's awesome how they connect.
Indeed. You can find Sarah tweeting sometimes pictures of her cosplays and how she makes them at RP Game Beast. She'll also be here on Mondays and Wednesdays for both Paddington Prowler and Eternium Gate. Katie, how's game?
I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad.
However, Nyla said a Bassage. She meant a Caymanid Empire. I just want to make that correction.
You have to start next game with 2 bennies now.
I don't use them a lot because I forget about them. So
I know.
It's fine.
Maybe I should punish your girlfriend who's played by Chantel.
I use enough bennies for both of us.
You can't find Katie
Apparently.
anywhere except on Monday for Paddington. But Chantel, who you can find in everything we do here on Did Respite, and at ChantelB, and at wordswithkiller.com. How was game?
Did you say dude respite?
Maybe, I don't know. It's late, I'm tired.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. I had fun. There were Nopelings. There were cool moments. There were
You got your
moments where I
first
wanted to-
true experience with set pieces.
got my first true experience with set pieces. I got my first true experience of wanting to throttle my girlfriend. You know, these things happen. It was
Funny
great.
how that goes around.
Yeah, weird that.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody again for joining us. Like I said, please be sure and smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I mean, don't smash it. You can just gently click it. That's fine. Smashing it seems unnecessary. And remember, the best advertising is telling your friends about us. So do that. But until next time, on behalf of my wonderful cast, Chantel, Sarah, and Katie, and the unfortunately ill but wishes he could have been here, Jeff, I've been Eric Taylor. This has been Do Respite. Good night, good luck. Stay safe, stay healthy, love one another, and we'll see all of you on Monday. Good night, everyone.